into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Testify. But yes, the direct examination is expected to last throughout the day. Even right before I came out to chat with you, Jesse, there was a little kind of angst, I would say, from the defense because essentially the government is saying that Mia has to be off the stand by the weekend. So tomorrow is Friday. So they're hoping that they're able to finish her direct examination today, go over to the cross tomorrow. But the problem is that sometimes the cross examinations do take maybe twice as long as the direct testimony. And it's been a kind of a sticking point that a lot of us have been kind of noticing, especially just sitting in the gallery. But Mark Agnifilo kind of took a little bit of offense to just being given a time frame as far as how long this cross-examination goes. And the thing is, Jesse, he's not going to even be the one doing the cross-examination. It's actually going to be Brian Steele doing the cross-examination against Mia, or for Mia, I should say. But the defense was pretty upset about it because they felt like the government was telegraphing the time frame for witnesses, especially since the government said that Mia needed to be off the stand. But from the government's point of view, they're essentially saying this is all for logistics purposes. If we're expecting Mia to not be off the stand by the weekend, then we have to pause our flight scheduling and all of that for the next witnesses that are going to be following up after her. But it seems like from the defense's perspective, they were just really kind of offended just about the time frames that they were given.
And
but
let me tell y'all,
pointed out that
it's not easy to prove 8 cases if you have absolutely no proof but your word of your mouth. Unfortunately. Okay, so I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like with R. Kelly, they double back. Didn't they try R. Kelly twice for the same thing? They had videos of R. Kelly doing it. Now, they said Puff Daddy had, oh, that's a little hard. Video in every room of his house, like essentially covering every single corner of his house. He was always recording stuff. Do y'all have that in the cloud of this alleged 8 taking place? If it happened at Diddy's house, where did it happen at? Did it happen at the office? Where did it happen at? Because if it is and there's video of it somewhere in the cloud, y'all find it, show it to the jury, and let them decide, what they are going to say that they believe Diddy did or didn't do.
Yeah, the government is doing this, but they're not doing this as a way to kind of slight the defense. They're doing this as kind of a common courtesy for those logistics purposes. And the judge kind of seemed like he took offense to it as well, too, what the defense was telling him. He was saying that it's common courtesy and that even the judge wanted to know these things as far as how long the direct will last, possibly how long the cross-examination will last. And so it seems like kind of a sticking point where the defense may feel like they are being kind of constrained to a certain time frame. But there's never been a moment so far that the judge was like, okay, you got to wrap up this cross-examination after an hour. You got to wrap this up in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. So really, they can just have a free go and just really ask all the questions, maybe questions that they didn't need to ask, but will continue to ask because they have to cross-examine their witness.
I got to talk about Deontay Nash. So obviously we'll continue the conversation with Mia, and there's a lot to break down with our panel of guests. Deontay Nash, important witness, celebrity stylist, right? And he had testified that he was, him and Mia the only people that actually stepped in to actually intervene in Sean Combs allegedly assaulting Cassandra Ventura, talked about the threats that Combs made towards Cassandra Ventura, talked about that she didn't want to be a part of freak-offs. Very, very important witness. But then it was time for cross-examination today. I wasn't entirely sure what the cross was about and what were the points they were making, other than the fact I think he's still not only in touch with Cassie, but maybe even supplied her the wardrobe that she wore in court. And I think he was still maintaining some sort of communicative relationship with Sean Combs only until a few years ago. So it becomes a question if all these things happened to him and Cassie, and he claims he was also attacked by Combs, that this might go to his credibility. But where exactly did the cross-examination go today of Deontay Nash?
Well, the cross-examination, just honestly, quite frankly, was all over the place this morning. It's first thing in the morning. It was just kind of a lot this morning, I should say. Even just starting off, Xavier Donaldson tells Deontay Nash, "Good morning, how are you?" And Deontay Nash still has that sass, which I absolutely love, and he responded blessed. And so just as far as just kind of the incidents that occurred when it came to the violence, they brought up the bed frame incident, and that was something that Mia testified as well today too, where they were explaining that they were all over at Cassie's apartment. It was Deontay, it was Mia, it was Cassie. They were helping her pack for this trip, and then all of a sudden they hear a knock or a banging on the door, and it was Diddy looking for Cassie. And so essentially Diddy kind of picks Cassie up from where she is. He throws her down. He's essentially attacking her in front of her friends, her stylist, but also Mia is still working for Diddy at this point. But essentially, at this point, Mia and Deontay do step in. As far as Deontay is concerned, Deontay jumps on Diddy's back. Diddy throws Deontay to the ground. Then when Deontay's on the ground, Mia jumps on Diddy's back to kind of stop him. Then all of a sudden, Cassie is essentially on the ground because she had hit her head and busted her head open on this really pointy, sharp bed frame. There was blood everywhere. It was something that even Mia testified again to today. But just as far as the responses, is concerned, I should say, that this was just kind of a really big sticking point, I feel like, as far as this particular incident, because it was so violent, because Cassie drew blood in this incident, or not drew blood, but not necessarily, but instead blood was gushing from her head. Mia had to go and get towels, and what ended up happening was a call was made, and essentially Cassie was taken to a plastic surgeon, and they were told that Cassie was drinking during this, and that it wasn't a violent encounter that had happened that had caused this type of nash or gash, I should say, as far as just the blood and the amount of blood that was taken, or the amount of blood, I should say, that just gushed from her head, essentially. And so they they essentially said this incident was because Cassie was drinking. She fell down and hit her head. So that was in regards to just the bed frame incident. But yes, Jesse, to your point, it was definitely one of those sticking out moments, especially because you finally see people stepping in, even kind of in a way attacking Diddy for the most part to get him off of Cassie. But even as far as the end of the cross-examination is concerned, yes, Xavier Donaldson was really asking Deontay Nash just about his communications with Diddy in the years even after he stopped working with them professionally. So this was around kind of the 2019 timeframe. You see an exhibit photo of this text message between Deontay and Diddy was upset that Deontay didn't tell him that Cassie was seeing the trainer. And who was the trainer? Well, the trainer is Alex Fine, her now husband, who she just had her third child with. And so Diddy used this text message to kind of ask how Cassie was doing. And I think the defense was kind of pointing out that that Diddy still cared about Cassie even after their relationship, because again, this was 2019. They broke up in 2018. All the D names. Deontay reached out to Diddy about Kim Porter's death and even Andre Harrell's death. Andre Harrell was a central figure in Diddy's life. He was somebody who had mentored him, and you could arguably say that Andre Harrell is kind of the reason that Diddy got to the point where he is as far as success is concerned. Maybe Diddy doesn't think that, but really you could kind of argue that in a way. But then we see another text message kind of going back in time a little bit, this one from January 30th of 2016. And this is where the cross-examination ends, where they were kind of implying that Cassie was secretive. She didn't tell Deontay, who she considers to be a best friend, just about the freak-offs, that he didn't know about these freak-offs until 2013 when they were at just a hotel together. They were hanging out together, and Diddy was threatening to release these sexually explicit videos of him, and just how it kind of ties back to Deontay saying, like, girl, let him release these videos because he's on them too. It kind of relates to that. And so they ended the cross-examination where Xavier Donaldson asked, "You deeply care for Cassie?" And Deontay responded, "Correct. And she kept major secrets from you." And Deontay Nash, in his Deontay Nash way, was like, "Well, I keep secrets from her too. We don't have to tell each other everything," which, you know, do best friends have to tell each other every single aspect of their lives? I mean, not necessarily. It's not necessarily holding a secret, but I feel like the defense was trying to point out that this was this big secret, that she wouldn't even tell her closest friends that these types of things even happen.
By the way, before I let you go, Elizabeth, you have Deontay Nash, you have Mia. How is the jury reacting to this testimony?
Well, let me tell you, Jesse, today for Mia's testimony, it was a packed courtroom. And so it was really kind of hard to see because of all the bodies in front of me, just their reaction to everything. But so far, it seems like from what I can see, and that's really kind of the tail end of the jury box, is just that these jurors are doing what they've been doing for the past couple of weeks. Is they're taking notes, they're listening. I couldn't see if there was like an emotional reaction, especially as Mia was kind of talking about the bed frame incident, because for Mia's point of view, it seemed like she was very upset recalling this particular piece of testimony. So I couldn't tell if there was an emotional reaction from the jury. And even from Diddy's side over on the defense table, I could barely see his reaction to things. In between heads, sometimes I would see him jotting down notes or shaking his head, that type of thing, especially when it came to Mia flat out saying that Diddy had sexually assaulted her more than once. But as far as just the jury's reaction overall, it's really hard to tell sometimes with them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a question that came in on YouTube from L. Spelunker. Is anyone else acting shocked? Is anyone acting shocked by all of this in the courtroom? His mom, his kids, the jurors? Does Diddy make any noises or movements? So you're kind of giving us a perspective on what we should be seeing in that courtroom and what we're expecting. Elizabeth, I know you have to head back in there. Thank you so much, as always, for your great reporting, your great detail. We're lucky to have you. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, so we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take your questions. Obviously, a lot to talk about here, including with Mia's testimony. So right now, let me bring on Alexis Rosenberg, trial attorney, federal litigator, and also David Ring, civil trial attorney who has a specialization in sex crimes cases. Thank you both so much for taking the time. David, I'll start with you. Mia, important witness. What are you taking away from her testimony so far today?
Well, it's early in her testimony, Jesse, but so far it seems like a very, very powerful witness for the prosecution. One thing that seems noticeable by people in the courtroom is her demeanor, which is really important. You know, jurors watch the demeanor of witnesses, and this woman doesn't want to be there. She's very soft-spoken. She keeps her head down. And all of that leads to credibility because of the things she's going to talk about. And I think the most important one will be that she was sexually assaulted by Sean Combs.
Got a great question here for you, Alexis. I mean, all these questions are great, but I mentioned before how the judge is trying to keep everybody on schedule, right? There was one thing to say, hey, we got to get Cassandra Ventura in and out of here. She's about to give birth. And guess what? She gave birth, a week? 2 weeks after her testimony? I get it. But the question we have here from Stephen Clark is, Jesse, why is there a timeline on the trial? Seems somewhat rushed to get through to keep to particular timelines. Shouldn't it be as long as it takes type of trial? That's a fair question, Alexis. What do you think?
Well, so judges do have a right to kind of, be the monitor of their courtroom to some extent. I think what the judge is communicating here is really, we have coordination issues. We have to fly people in and out. And this happens all the time when you have trials with witnesses. But in this case, you have a lot of witnesses coming from other areas. So to ask the defense how long they anticipate that they are going to need for cross is totally reasonable. The judge is not putting a specific timeline on them. They seem to be kind of, it appears to me, laying this out as possible appealable issue, but the judge is making it clear that they're not doing that. We need this for coordination purposes.
By the way, I'll just throw another question to you, Alexis. This is from Amanda Miles. Does the government pay for their hotel and plane flights for the people they call as witnesses?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it is possible that they are paying for their travel expenses to get there.
All right, that was some very riveting updates. Okay, so we're still on it. We're still sipping tea from it, y'all. Let's jump right into the next one. Remember, when you come in to hold your teacup up to get it filled up with this tea we're pouring. And like and subscribe. This just in with long crime. Diddy was going to kill his ex-girlfriend on the beach. Who testified to that? Was that Mia? I don't know, but we're going to see. While my computer's catching up to the tea being poured, y'all make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms. Thank you.
Prosecutor says we have subpoenaed from Verizon phone records. Ms. Garagos, this is Tanny Garagos referring to Sean Combs' defense counsel. Ms. Garagos has agreed that if Your Honor finds them admissible, you can give them to us and we to them. Garagos responds, that's fine. The judge
of jurors, truly, they follow the judge's instruction and they go into deliberations with a fairly open mind, and they listen to the other jurors, and oftentimes they go in with one position in their head and they're swayed to change their mind because of jury deliberations, and they take it very seriously. So I think, I give the jury the benefit of the doubt in this case that they're all taking this incredibly seriously. They're all going to deliberate in good faith, but closing arguments will be crucial because, the prosecution is going to probably say just that. Hey, you can't convict him just because you don't like him. Here's the elements of these crimes, and we've actually, the prosecution, we've fulfilled all these elements. That's why you convict him.
A super chat question from Nestdog. Nestdog, thank you so much. I'll throw it to you, Alexis. Can the judge give instructions to the jury stating he will not allow a hung jury?
No, the judge cannot do that. If the judge can send the jury back to continue to deliberate, but he cannot instruct the jury that he won't allow a hung jury.
Can give an Allen charge, right? Basically, like if they're like, we're continue deliberating. I'm encouraging you, go back, try to deliberate. Sometimes it comes back with a guilty verdict. Sometimes it comes back with an acquittal. Sometimes we're still undecided. Okay, update from court. All rise. Prosecutor Smizer is asking Mia, again, alleged victim number 4. Mia, you were speaking about violence between Mr. Combs and Cassie. Have you traveled to Turks and Caicos? Yes, to Parrot Cay twice. In 2012, me, Puff, and Cass. What happened? I was sleeping in my bedroom, woken up. That travel component is really important, David, right?
Yeah, it goes right to the heart of the sex trafficking, the transportation for prostitution. So every time you hear travel, they're not just putting that in there just to put it in there. It's important to these particular elements of these crimes that there's transportation that leads to some sort of criminal act.
Got a question from Ashley Glass. If Diddy gets acquitted for this, can the government retry? Nope. If he's acquitted, that's the end of the case. That's the end of those charges. All right, we have a poll. Do you think victim 3's refusal to testify could negatively impact the state's case? Alexis? 61% say no, 38% say yes. Your reaction, Alexis, to that?
No, I don't think it will. I mean, we don't know exactly what they're going to testify to, so it may be that this, the victim had this wonderful testimony that would have been great for the prosecution, but without knowing the specifics of that testimony, the mere fact of them not testifying, no, I don't believe it will be an issue.
Got a continuation of what's happening in court. So Mia has testified, again, regarding this Turks and Caicos trip to Parrot Cay. She said, I was sleeping in my bedroom. I was woken up. Cass ran in saying, you've got to help me. He's going to kill me. Prosecutor asks, what did you do? We started pushing furniture in front of the door to try to block it. Puff was banging and screaming. I had a porch that went out to the beach. You ran. Now, David, again, the defense would be saying, you have described prosecutors a lot of violent episodes, a lot of domestic violence, a toxic relationship, arguably state crimes. How is this racketeering? How is this sex trafficking? What would your answer be?
Well, look, you got to look at the totality of this evidence, the totality of the circumstances for this entire case. And I truly think what's going to happen as we move into this more testimony with Mia is that, Mia, we know she's sexually assaulted by Diddy. And so, again, these violent acts are super important because it allows him to control these victims. And it goes right to the heart of these charges, that these threats, this violence, all leads to sex trafficking, to trafficking and prostitution. It's this criminal enterprise. And that's what it comes down to.
Yep. I got another great question. This is from Jesper Sparrow. I'm going to throw this to you, Alexis. Did Cassie get immunity for her testimony? And if so, why wasn't it used for impeachment purposes?
I don't believe that she did. They could have offered her that potentially, because I think that would have come out. There would have been some questioning of her about whether she received immunity.
And
so
what would she get immunity for exactly? Well, let me ask. Immunity if she was part of hiring sex workers for prostitution, I guess?
Well, here's the thing. One of the questions that I've seen come across is why aren't there other people that have been named as defendants in this racketeering case along with Diddy? So, there probably are, which they don't have to do, by the way. You don't have to name everybody as part of the enterprise. But there may have been people that have given testimony or information to the government that they did receive immunity, that they're going to put on the stand, they're not planning on putting on the stand, but they just got information from them, because that is not uncommon. So that may have happened, but I don't think she was given immunity because it would have come out as part of the testimony.
Yeah, there was other conversations about immunity and proffer agreements with respect to assistants, and also potentially if bodyguards testify, I would imagine the same thing, and I wouldn't be surprised by that because, again, if he is charged with a racketeering conspiracy, he can't do it himself. He couldn't have committed these crimes and covered them up all by himself, so you'd have to imagine that the people he did it with or allegedly did it with would have taken some sort of deal or have some sort of protection to testify against him. Okay, going back to court, prosecutor asks Mia, what do you remember about running? Mia responds, I remember being amazed that even while running fast, we could be attacked by bugs. Did you run another time? I have another visual of where we were hiding, of trying to escape like 2 separate times. Interesting. Okay. Listen to this one. This is for you. Well, actually, it's not necessarily a question. It's a poll, but I think it's a really interesting poll, David. If convicted, Do you think Diddy will regret not taking his original plea deal? 76% say yes, 23% say no. Now, to be clear, we don't know what that deal consisted of. If you ask me, it had to be double digits. I don't think that they were going to offer him anything less than 10 years when they're basically describing him being a criminal leader, a mafia boss almost, and what he's accused of doing, sex trafficking, committing all these crimes, where he faces charges that could send him to life in prison. I don't think
I must say, if you didn't hear what I've spilled about the mob, related ties to Diddy, personal assistants, hairstylists, people like that are not mob bosses level of organizations, you know what I'm saying, of roles for mob bosses. Mob bosses don't have personal assistants and hairstylists that carry out their mob jobs. Like, they do not have those. They have killers, a hitman, and all such things like that. Generals, level tiers in the mob world of where you are and who you are as a mob person. Okay? Period. I'm not hearing that out of Diddy relate him to being a mob boss in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Mob bosses do not recruit their hairstylists to commit violent acts of crime.
would have offered him 5 years. But what do you think? You think he'll regret it if he's convicted?
Well, no, I agree. I think if the plea deal, it was significant. And yeah, I mean, look, he's facing life in prison if convicted of some of these charges. And some of the other ones carry, 15, 20 years minimum. And so if he's convicted, he's looking at, minimum of 15 years, possibly life. And so if he looks back on it and says, you know what, I could have taken a plea deal. I maybe could have saved all of this information and horrible evidence from coming out. I could have served, 7, 8, 9 years and getting out for good behavior. Yeah, he's probably going to regret it.
Well, David, I mean, we got a question from Leslie. Will we ever hear what Diddy's plea deal was?
Probably not. I mean, maybe it comes out after this trial that someone says, here's what he was offered, but are we going to be able to really rely upon that information unless it comes from the government itself? So we may not know what deal he was offered. We may never know that. And we might. Maybe they come out and do say, hey, we offered the guy 10 years. But again, most of the time you don't hear that.
Okay, so I have good news. Well, not only do I have Alexis and David, but now we also have Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor. Look at that. Look at the boxes just like this. It's like the Brady Bunch over here. Nima, good to have you. Welcome to the conversation. Okay, a lot to talk about. So first of all, more updates from court about Mia's testimony. We got onto the paddle boards, went out to the water. Puff was on the beach screaming at us. It was flat. We went out far. Puff got smaller and smaller on the beach. The sky got dark, and then all of a sudden, Sean Combs' counsel, Brian Steele, says objection, overruled. We went back. Did you ever call the police? No. Why not? I believe Puff's authority was above the police. This was before social media and Me Too. There were no examples of people standing up. I thought it was under the confidentiality deal with Puff's business. So, Nima, that's a big point, right? I've said it before. I'll say it again. A big theme I think the jury's going to have to wrestle with is why didn't Cassie leave? Why didn't Cassie step forward? Why did nobody else report what Combs was doing? How is it possible that, according to Dawn Richard, Cassie was beat up by Diddy in front of high-profile celebrities? Nobody stepped in. That power dynamic, who he is important in this case, right?
Jesse, you're absolutely right. It's extremely important. And look, abusers often have power over their victims, but here the power disparity is something else. And there's this other underlying theme that we're getting out, and it really was the basis for the mistrial motion yesterday, that Combs was above the law, right? He was doing all this and he could pay his way or use his power and influence not to be prosecuted by law enforcement. So obviously, what the defense wants to do is say, no, there's not this disparity in power. What they're trying to do is actually build up the victims, right? This is a theme in their opening statement, that these are strong, independent women who are making their own decision. But the prosecution is saying, no. Here's someone who controlled every aspect of their life. And the reason the victims didn't leave, like you asked, Jesse, is because they didn't think they could because of all the control and influence that Combs had.
Nima, I'm going to throw this to you. This is from Pima 1982. In your opinion, how many of RICO have already been proven?
I think we've satisfied RICO. You have the criminal enterprise, right? Bad boy records. And we know it doesn't have to be the mob or the cartel. It can be a much looser association. Then you have the conspiracy, right? The agreement to do.
Okay, exactly. While everybody's trying to the mob, it's not nowhere up to that level of mob. As far as like what y'all are showing. Okay, like they would have been like, oh, Little Kim was a lieutenant general and she was doing this, that, and the third. Mary J. Blige over here doing this, that, and the third. 112 was somewhere running this, that, and the third. Day 26 was doing this, that, and the third. B2K, goddamn it, we had Usher, Justin Bieber, Meek Mill. We had everybody, and they all had roles and levels of understanding where they were in this mob, and they carry out orders. Diddy was the head mob leader. Then we could see y'all like, oh, okay, they own something, they doing something, but ain't none of that, nothing. Y'all got hairstylists, homosexual hairstylists, okay, and goddamn it, me, personal assistants.
Something unlawful, and I think that's satisfied. Obviously, the most important thing everyone is talking about is those pattern of racketeering acts. I think, look, even if you don't believe sex trafficking, even if you think this was all consensual, I think you got arson, I think you got kidnapping, I think you got intimidation, you got obstruction, you got prostitution, you got plenty
I got a
of
bunch of allegations that have been testimonied up on the stand that have not been proven. They said it happened. They came out and said, you know, a police officer testified that, yes, he investigated. He pulled prints. Unfortunately, the prints cannot be identified back to anybody because the evidence was destroyed in lockup down to the police station. So, excuse me. Kidnapping, yeah. What's her name? Capricorn Clark. She said it happened. Where's the evidence to collaborate and prove that it did happen? Anybody can say anything, that somebody did anything to me. And you know what I'm saying? So they said it. And I'll make it true. Prove it. You need to prove shit, right? Especially when you're talking about the livelihoods and the likelihoods of somebody being free or spending the rest of their life in prison like they keep wanting to try to say Diddy's gonna have to do. So we gonna see, like I said.
predicate acts here, Jesse. So I think RICO has been established. And frankly, I think the RICO charge is easier to prove for the government than the sex trafficking.
Got a super chat question. I'll throw it to you, Nima. This is from Donizy TV. Thank you so much for your super chat question. Are there any state charges Diddy could face?
It's tough. You know, I'm here in Los Angeles where the 2016 hotel assault happened, and statute is run on that, unfortunately. It's hard. Some of this is dated. You know, even Cassie's allegation regarding her rape, that's probably the most likely to be charged stateside. But I think if Combs is convicted, it's going to be a moot point. He's going to do double-digit years in federal prison. If he's acquitted, I can't see the DA here, Nathan Hochman, filing additional charges after what would be a very high-profile acquittal.
Okay, so we got an update from, again, the continued testimony of Mia. victim number 4. Prosecutor asks, "What's this?" Mia responds, "A photo of Cass eating a hot dog at the premiere of her movie, The Perfect Match. She has bruising under her makeup. I took this injuries covered up on a red carpet? Yes, at the Cannes Film Festival. What injuries did you see? A busted lip. She was injured. Where were you? In her hotel room with Larry Sims, her hairstylist. Did you learn how she got the injuries? Cass had an audio recording of Puff attacking her." Go to you, David, on this. This is a question from Christine Dobson. Might have been posted before, but I missed it. Is the jury sequestered? No, they're not sequestered, but I'll throw this to you, Dave. Do you think they should have been?
No. Look, nowadays, very, very few juries are ever sequestered. It turns into an absolute nightmare. Jurors do not want to be locked up in a hotel room for 2 months and not seeing anyone. And with social media and the phones and this and that, it doesn't do any good anyways. I mean, it might have worked back in the day when truly they would have no TV in the hotel room and would have no information about the case. But even if you did lock them away, they'd have plenty of information if they wanted to look at it. So there's just no reason to do that. The judge always says, do not read the media, do not read accounts of the case, do not talk to anyone about the case. Every day they get that instruction and hopefully they follow it.
Alexis, interesting question, interesting poll. Do you think Diddy's defense genuinely believes they can win this for their client? 58% say no, 41% say yes. Your reaction to that, Alexis?
I don't think that they think they can win this. No, I think it's clear that we've got a lot of damaging testimony and evidence, and I think they have some concerns. They've got to do some fancy dancing to convince the jury.
I mean, they can have all of the concern that they want for the type of person that Diddy really truly is, but if Diddy has not been federally proven to have done the things that they federally charged him with, they should not federally convict Diddy. I don't care for Diddy. Please don't think I care for Diddy. But I'm looking at Diddy just being another person with charges. I'm listening to what they are, listening to the testimony, and I'm like, okay, well, I hear a lot of shit, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of shit going on, yeah. But does it fit into where up underneath the charges that they have charged Diddy with? And I'm like, no, I don't see it. I don't see it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, Diddy potentially blew up Kid Cudi's car. Do we believe he did that shit? Probably so. Have they proved it? No. Okay, he blew up Kid Cudi's car because Kid Cudi was sleeping with Cassie. That's under mob related or any type of criminal syndication of criminal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see it. I do not see it. Now, if he'd have blew up a warehouse because, you know what I'm saying, it had another person's drugs in it, or somebody was coming to raid it and it had a bunch of drugs in it, or people that were being trafficked, that's a level of arson for a RICO charge. Yeah. Him blowing up Kid Cudi's Porsche. Like, that's what rich niggas do when you piss them off. You sleep with that girl and they don't half-ass really want to kill your punk ass, so they throw a cocktail in your car and blow it up. Like, okay. Regular people, like, okay. You see what I'm saying? So not for nothing, it's not RICO level to us. We're not hearing this shit. Okay, he aped a girl. He aped people, right? Okay, I haven't seen any ape kits. I haven't seen any ape, you know what I'm saying, collaborating witnesses that are like, yes, oh my God, I was there when it happened. I was around the corner dusting. I took a peek around the corner, and next thing I know, I saw somebody, you know, flailing and wailing, and Diddy's hand was over their mouth, and he was aping them. That's somewhat of some, you know what I'm saying, credible testimony. But all we got are people saying that it happened and absolutely no evidence. Y'all talking about drugs.
What drugs? The drugs that they kept in the little briefcases and stuff? Okay, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Everybody talking about them, but so what? Where's the evidence? Did the police seize it? Where the evidence at? Anybody can say any goddamn thing.
That not to convict him.
Got an update from court. Prosecutor asking Mia, how did Cassie sound on the audio recording? There's an objection from defense counsel. It was overruled. Mia said, panicked. I heard the sound of someone getting hit. Did you
Yes.
go
Oh
to
my
events?
God. Is it terrible that Diddy's a woman beater and he threatens people to coerce them to do what he wants them to do? Get your ass over there and file that paperwork for me, boy, for I beat your ass type person. Okay. Y'all put Diddy in position to be in power to fucking do what he did. I don't care for Diddy. I ain't never bought a Diddy album or nothing. I like Faith. I like Little Kim. I like Mary J. Blige. I like Day 12. I like R26. I like 112. I love Usher. You see what I'm saying? But I believe our world would have still had those people in it if it was not for Diddy. I like Biggie Smalls. But y'all are the people that put Diddy into the position to be able to manipulate his power to control and do what he's doing to people. Y'all did that shit. Y'all were not thinking about the man behind the monster behind the man, the monster inside the man. Y'all were thinking about that shit. It was Diddy has a position of power. Diddy can be in position of power. Diddy can also put other people in a position of power. And that's just what y'all ran with. Nobody was giving a damn in the 90s when Diddy came out and started hard hitting on the scene with Biggie Smalls and Faith Evans and Little Kim and all of them, right? Who he truly was as a human being. Y'all were not giving a damn about none of that shit. It was, look at who Diddy's putting up on a stage. Let's rant and rave. Let's crave and dance. Okay, so this is what y'all created. Is it wrong? Yeah. But I think our society also plays a very big part of why Diddy is out here abusing and taking advantage of what he's taking advantage of and doing what the hell he's doing.
Of Brad Pitt's movie Killing Them Softly. What happened at the premiere? Puff was digging.
God, they've been saying that Diddy was this person. They've been saying, girl, Diddy slapped up out of me. When I was at a freak off, girl, I went to use the bathroom and it slapped me into a wall, girl. What'd you do? I went back and got mouth sores. Me and Cassie did. Like, people have been rumoring about Diddy. Been doing it. Y'all just now coming out wanting to bring it to the federal level of indictments. That's on y'all. But we're just following the evidence. And so far, we ain't heard nothing.
His nails into her arm and talking low. What would Mr. Combs ask you to do?
Oh, y'all
Take
keep
care
your
of her.
teacups
I bring
up.
her.
When you come in the room, get your teacup filled up with all the Diddy live updates with Tanisha Talks Teas. We're on day 10 through 12. Like and subscribe. Kickers, make sure y'all follow. Welcome Kick to the platform, streaming platform that I am on. It's called Kick.
Arnica gel. For what? Bruises. Talk to us about why that's important for sex trafficking and why that's important for racketeering, Nima.
So sex trafficking, you need that force, fraud, or coercion, right? And we've spent a lot of time in this case talking about force and coercion. Coercion being the drugs, holding the sex tapes over her, that extortion, right? She was concerned.
Okay, we are hearing that Diddy held, X tapes over people. Where are the X tapes at? And what do they have on them? Because if Cassie was so concerned about him putting out X tapes of her, she wouldn't have beat that nigga to the punch to sue him. Cassie didn't give a damn about what them X tapes had on him. She hit him with what the X tapes had on him and told him that she would blackmail his ass and write a book if he didn't pay her $20 million. Like, y'all are crazy for this shit. Yeah, Diddy might have said, oh, I got y'all on tape having sex. But who cared until now? Who cared until now? Who's suing who? Diddy, they are going after Diddy. Diddy hasn't gone after them. When have we ever until now heard Diddy out talking about, or anybody saying, girl, you should have heard what Diddy said last night. What was it? He was trying to blackmail so-and-so with X tapes. Have y'all heard that shit? Because y'all already know we hear everything. Everybody's always recording something. Diddy's always recording like what he does and what he says. Like, I think it would have got leaked that Diddy was gonna blackmail people with X tapes. But we do know that the people that are suing Diddy are like, if you don't pay me, I'm going to say what you did to me on these X tapes. Okay.
That if she left or if she said no, the sex tapes would be put on the internet or sent to her parents' place of work. And then, of course, for the racketeering, obviously, to the extent that there's violence. Now, obviously, domestic violence, assault, they're not racketeering elements. But if there is violence in connection with kidnapping, for instance, right? Kidnapping someone like Capricorn Clark or someone like Cassie Ventura, that violence, that can all come into evidence to the extent that we're dealing with racketeering predicates.
And if this is true, that he's digging...
Why? Because he's somewhere beating up on people? He's somewhere slapping people, kicking people, punching people? Okay. Now, one time before they tried to say it was a racketeering charge, federal racketeering RICO charge, that Diddy kicked Cassie all in the back at the hotel and all this shit. And now he's running around beating up everybody, stopping people, throwing people off balconies, blowing up cars and shit. It wasn't nothing. But people have been talking about this shit for decades. So now it takes 30 years for somebody to get federally indicted? Since when? I heard of like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 30? Takes 30 years to indict Diddy? Oh, please. I think they're sick of Diddy. I think they're sick of Diddy running around here like he King Teddy Strutter. He can sleep with anybody he wants to. He can beat up anybody he wants to. He's spending millions and billions of dollars doing it. He's paying personal assistants to freak off, file his paperwork. He really ain't doing nothing but kicking back, sleeping around with everybody. I think they're kind of tired of Diddy's lifestyle and they're ready to take him down. That's what I think. Because, girl, where's this RICO shit at? I don't see it. I ain't seen 1 kilo come across this goddamn trial. Where the RICO at? I have not seen one person say, yes, Diddy, he kidnapped me and put me in the back of a truck and made me sleep with 100 men in one night. I have not heard that. And even when they're saying that, Capricorn Clark said he kidnapped her. How? Didn't she say she willingly went? He was like, let's go to the park. And she was like, okay. And then they were like, but didn't he kidnap you? Yes, he kidnapped. Wait a minute. You just said you willingly went to the park. What is it? He kidnapped you and threatened to throw you off of a bridge. Like, who else was there? Was it anybody else that could collaborate your story? It was just you and Diddy by yourself? And he was threatening you and telling you this, that, and the third? And so what was wrong with Capricorn Clark? He's all alone, Capricorn Clark, kidnapping her, threatening her, taking her places to do stuff. He didn't want to ape Capricorn Clark, but he wanted to rape every other woman that came into his sights but her. Wasn't he alone with Capricorn Clark? I don't know. Y'all just...
His nails into her arm, talking low, that level of control, and having his assistant cover it up, again, goes to this idea of a criminal pattern that he's using
Y'all
his
hit that like
resources
button.
and
I
his
want those
business and his employees.
likes up. Hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. We spilling everything, sipping everything about Diddy, y'all.
To further this criminal activity. We have a super chat question from Ever Rios. Thank you so much. Is there no recording at all? Not even the courtroom cam? There is no recording. We do get the transcripts.
Thank you for the
What we
love
try
on
to do on
TikTok.
Law and Crime, we've been experimenting with a little bit, is we put it into this AI program. So we're creating AI recreations. We did it of the opening statements. We did it of Cassie's testimony. Federal courts, unfortunately, they haven't gotten up to the times, and I think that this is a big problem in terms of transparency, particularly in an important case like this, a case of public interest like this. But we're trying to do the best we can of, putting you in that courtroom as to what's happening with this testimony. Okay, Alexis, question from Merlene Spies. Can witness 3 not get arrested for not coming to court?
So they can subpoena her, and yes, she can be held in contempt. I think that the issue that prosecutors have with anytime you want to put a witness that doesn't want to be there on the stand, the testimony can be damaging to the prosecution. So prosecutors are very hesitant to do that, to force a witness that's supposed to be testifying on their behalf to come testify. So you got to balance, you have to balance that. Also, do you want to put someone in jail for not testifying when they've already been victimized?
All right, before we wrap things up.
And not for nothing, I mean, yes, there are allegations and conspiracy theories about Diddy involved in the murder and death of Tupac and Biggie, and God knows if that is true. And y'all can find evidence on Diddy, please lock him up underneath the prison, because Pac and Biggie were 2 of the best influential rappers we had, and now we were cut short of ever being able to continue to enjoy their entertainment. Okay, so with that being said, do what y'all need to do, but y'all need to do it, because if you want to get Diddy, this would be the time while you have him. If not, you probably won't ever get another opportunity.
One last question for all 3 of you. I'm going to take it one by one. This is from Leg 7K. Quick question coming at the end of week 3, going into week 4. Who does the panel think has the advantage so far? Thank you. I'll start with you, Nima.
Oh, in my estimation, this is the former federal prosecutor in me. The prosecution has a clear edge right now. I mean, between the video evidence and victim after victim that's telling the same story, the jurors might disbelieve one of them, but there's no way they're going to disbelieve everyone. I think we're marching towards a conviction.
Let me see it.
David, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Nima. Boy, it's been a powerful, compelling case so far put on the prosecution. And, it doesn't look like it's getting any weaker. Each witness that they put forward each new day seems to have something new and compelling to say. So it's not looking good for the defense.
And y'all, one of my kiddos goes to school all year round, okay? Getting used to that. This is his first year going to an all year round school, but it's a great school. So I'm very thankful that I was able to get him in, and he's in, and he can go to the same school. He's autistic until he's 21 years old. And so we are blessed beyond belief for that. But my daughter is home from school, right? So she is trying to get sprinkles just to open them for no reason. Stop, put them down. Thank you. Back to Diddy, y'all. Back to Diddy.
And Alexis, before I throw to you, just an interesting poll result. Do you think Diddy should face any state charges for these alleged crimes? 85% say yes, 15% say no. So even, I guess, putting aside the statute of limitations issues that might arise. So Alexis, I'll throw back the question from Leg 7K. As we close out this week, who do you think has the advantage so far?
The prosecution, but remember, this is their case in chief right now. So if they didn't have the advantage right now, then they would be in some real trouble.
That's a good point. Alexis Rosenberg, David Ring, Nima Rahmani, thank you all for taking the time. Really, really appreciate it. All-star panel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right.
Day by Alexis.
Now, before we wrap things up, again, we're planning to do these lunchtime shows, take your questions every day of this trial. Again, we want to kind of put you in the courtroom as much as we possibly can. That's why it's great to have Elizabeth Milner on, who's been in that courtroom and giving us kind of a bird's eye view about what's happening. But one of the other reasons that we can do this is because we get incredible support from our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. And I'll give you an idea here. This is a firm, okay, incredible track record. So they secured a $6 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, $13 million for a wrongful auto death in Georgia, and another $6 million for a trucking accident in New York. And mind,
let's actually listen.
Today was the day when
an ex-mobster said about Diddy.
out waterboarding. And wouldn't you know it, it came from a celebrity stylist who sashayed his way up onto the witness stand. Deontay Nash had the kind of joie de vivre and sass that literally had that courtroom hooked from the moment he showed up. Apart from being right out of central casting, Nash hammered nails into Diddy's coffin today, one after the other, by testifying about things that line up squarely with racketeering. If you think the trial so far has been all about domestic abuse and not about the charges that Diddy's actually facing, like sex trafficking and racketeering, this stylist, Deontay Nash, his tour on the witness stand might just change your mind. Look, it is no secret that Diddy was violent, abhorrent, disgusting. We all saw what he did to Cassie on video. He admitted to it himself, but he's not charged with assault. And Deontay Nash testified about things that went way beyond violence and went straight to the heart of the prosecution's case: force, fraud, coercion. He told the jury that he actually witnessed Sean Combs regularly beating and threatening his girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
Okay, how does that go all the way up to fraud and coercion on the racketeering level? How?
And that he would threaten to release the sex tapes of her. That he would use those sex tapes to get her parents fired from their jobs. And that he, Diddy, as head of Bad Boy Records, would refuse to release her music if Cassie didn't do as he said all the time. If you're keeping score, that kind of behavior from a guy at the head of an enterprise could easily be seen as the jury as extortion, coercion, forced labor, all the elements, the racketeering charges Diddy's fighting. The stylist also testified that on Cassie's 29th birthday, she confided in this stylist that she did not want to participate in Diddy's planned freak-off. After all, it was her birthday, not his. Maybe there were some freak-offs that she enjoyed, and maybe there were some that she did not, but felt she had no choice. For the record, forcing your employee, using your enterprise and your power at the top to have illegal sex with prostitutes that have crossed state lines, that's called sex trafficking, friends. It's called forced labor. And that is what Diddy is charged with in this trial.
Back that up.
But this trial has so many people asking
so I
the
can
question.
hear that again. Hold on.
For the record, forcing your employee, using your enterprise and your power at the top to have illegal sex with prostitutes that have crossed state lines, that's called sex trafficking. Friends.
Okay, it is. I haven't heard him say that he did it. I have not heard them say, News Nation, that Diddy went across state lines with ex-workers illegally for freak-offs and any of that. We have not heard them testify to that. We've only heard of one ex-worker that came out, the charade guy, the Punisher, who has been doing many of paid interviews since he testified on the stand in the Diddy trial. Okay. That, yes, he was an escort for Diddy and Cassie, but it wasn't anything that he didn't want to do He wanted to do it. He was looking forward to it. And they didn't have to transport him nowhere but across town. Not across state lines, just across town. We did not hear him say one time that he flew the Punisher nowhere so he could come and be with Diddy and Cassie. Now, if I'm wrong, please put the link in the chat, sippers, where that has been stated during the Punisher testimony in the Diddy trial, that he went across state lines whenever he was hired to entertain for Diddy and Cassie. Because I didn't hear that. News Nation is saying that it has been introduced. Okay, that's y'all's money over there at News Nation. If Diddy get acquitted, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I am only ever stating the facts, listening to what the news that also always be having a slant on its ass, but are very, very liable for getting sued. Okay, about whatever is going on. We want all sides, all understandings of the evidence first and foremost, and then we want to hear the predictions of what the outcome could look like. Okay, so we're sipping this tea, y'all. Get your teacups up. Here we go. She's about to pour out her understanding of what the tea is. And then they're also going to have an ex-mobster tell him why he felt like Diddy would not last in the mob whatsoever. Okay, he says, we didn't beat up women in the mob.
Called forced labor. And that is what Diddy is charged with in this trial.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping. Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping.